The Russian Revolution. Prior to World War I, Russia was in a state of extreme poverty and took part in a series of wars that led to mass food shortages throughout the country. In 1914, Russia entered World War I but was not prepared for the far more industrialized forces of Western Europe. After suffering many losses, Nicholas II decided to take command of the Russian front, leaving his wife Alexandra in charge back at home. She began firing several elected officials, allowing her favored advisor, Grigory Rasputin, to increase his influence over Russian politics. However, Rasputin's growing power was controversial and he was eventually killed by a group of aristocrats. By now, the corruption within the government was very evident to the Russian public, so much so that on March 8, 1917, several women took to the streets on International Women's Day to protest for bread. The next day, the protesters were joined by industrial workers who suffered from low wages and poor work conditions due to the Tsar government. At first, the rebels received resistance from the Russian troops and many were killed. However, eventually many soldiers mutinied and joined the rebellion, leaving the current government defenseless against the protesters. And there's a picture of the revolution on the bottom right corner. Not long after Nicholas II was forced to abdicate, ending centuries of monarchist rule in Russia. In his place, the Duma put in a provisional government which was to serve as a temporary solution until the permanent government was put in place. Although the Duma implemented many positive changes, such as freedom of speech and freedom to oppose any political party, they failed to take Russia out of World War I, which was the main cause of Russia's most pressing issues, such as food shortages and poverty. As a result, the Soviet Petrograd started a new revolution against the Duma, with Vladimir Lenin as their leader. On November 7th, 1917, the Soviets overthrew the provisional government.
So the change of government. So after the Bolshevik Revolution, Vladimir Lenin takes power of Russia after the fall of the Tsar government due to the Bolshevik Revolution. The provisional government is replaced. Slowly, the state is introduced to a dictatorship, and the state, after many rights are taken away, such as freedom of press and expression, it changed from a monarchy into a communist Russian state. Also, opposing parties were exiled or killed. Also, the government took control of all property and goods in the country, and also the production and distribution of goods in Russia. So, problems with the new government. So, many rights such as freedom of press and expression were restricted. Widespread unemployment was rampant due to the new communist ideology. Basically, because the government forced farmers and everyone, they controlled what people were doing, and because the farmers had no obligation to sell their own goods at their own prices, they, instead of selling it to the public, they just fed their families and their friends. And because of this, it led to a widespread famine in the country, and it caused the Civil War to break out in late 1917 between the Red and the White armies. So the Red Army consisted of loyalists and Bolsheviks, which were basically Bolsheviks and loyalists to Lenin. And the White Army consisted of loosely allied forces, so capitalists, monarchies, socialists, all those type of people. And then the picture here is just an ad during 1917 that was posted up around Russia. So stability. So after the Bolsheviks win the Civil War, they established the Soviet Union, and after this, Russia transferred from a peasant state into basically a military superpower because of their focus on the military. But after the fall of Joseph Stalin, a lot less fear in Russia was kind of dammed down. Also, opposing parties weren't as oppressed, so anything like liberals or Democrats were able to actually rise up and kind of contest their rivals. And also, many rights weren't as restricted. So freedom of press, freedom of religion, and freedom of expression. And here the image is just the flag of the Soviet Union, also known as the USSR.